I believe you have a policy, Madam Secretary, that you have to approve all contracts at your department over $100 million.
No, sir, I have a policy in place that I review contracts. My deputy chiefs have the ability to review anything under $5 million. Above that, I evaluate and look at.
Okay. And you do that, I understand, to try to curb waste and abuse of taxpayer money. Is that right?
Yes, sir. In fact, it's been extremely effective. We've saved the taxpayers over $13.2 billion just by evaluating contracts, negotiating lower ones, and canceling ones that aren't necessary to do our duties.
This may sound like a routine discussion about government contracts, but Senator Kennedy is setting up a much bigger question. If DHS is saving billions by eliminating waste, how does a $220 million advertising campaign fit into that mission? That contradiction is about to become the focus of this hearing.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota. Is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending
The debate has now shifted beyond immigration enforcement. Secretary Noem argues these ads were designed to deter illegal immigration and support border security. Kennedy, however, is asking something different: whether taxpayer-funded communications became too closely associated with a public official. That distinction is increasingly driving the exchange.
$120 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick, in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages. I just can't agree with, Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. No politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Career
still running
officials
those
followed the
ads?
competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those
was,
ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March, I think within a week or
So
two.
they
I'm
are
not sure of the
still
update.
running?
The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
What began as a debate over television advertisements quickly became a broader argument about government spending, public trust, and one of the most persistent questions in American politics. Where is the line between informing the public and promoting the people in power? Senator John Kennedy approached this hearing from a position many taxpayers immediately recognize. At a time when Washington is debating deficits, government efficiency, and spending reductions, he questioned whether spending roughly $220 million on a nationwide advertising campaign was truly necessary. On the surface, the disagreement appears straightforward. Secretary Kristi Noem argued the advertisements served a specific policy objective. The campaign was designed to communicate immigration enforcement policies, discourage illegal entry into the United States, and encourage individuals already in the country unlawfully to leave voluntarily before facing removal proceedings. From the administration's perspective, the advertisements were not public relations. They were a policy tool. But Kennedy was not focused on the message itself. He was focused on the optics. That distinction matters because American voters have a long history of supporting government information campaigns while simultaneously distrusting anything that resembles political self-promotion funded by taxpayers. Throughout modern American history, administrations from both parties have faced criticism when public communications appeared to blur that line. Whether involving military recruitment campaigns, public health initiatives, infrastructure programs, or immigration messaging, the same question repeatedly emerges. Is the government educating the public, or is it elevating the profile of the officials delivering the message? That concern is particularly significant because public trust in federal institutions remains historically fragile. Recent polling has consistently shown that confidence in government agencies has declined across much of the political spectrum. Republicans, Democrats, and independents may disagree about the causes, but many share concerns about transparency, accountability, and how taxpayer dollars are spent. That broader backdrop helps explain why this hearing attracted attention. Kennedy repeatedly returned to the size of the expenditure. His argument was not simply that government should communicate less. Rather, he appeared to be questioning whether the scale of the spending was justified when Congress is simultaneously scrutinizing budgets across multiple agencies. The timing of the hearing is also important. In recent years, immigration has remained one of the most politically charged issues in the United States. Border security, asylum policy, deportation procedures, and federal enforcement priorities have dominated campaign speeches, congressional debates, and cable news coverage. As a result, any large spending decision connected to immigration enforcement inevitably becomes part of a much larger political conversation. Supporters of the advertising campaign would likely argue that communication can be more cost-effective than enforcement alone. If messaging discourages unlawful entry before it occurs, agencies may reduce future enforcement costs, detention expenses, and administrative burdens. Critics, however, would counter that effectiveness alone does not eliminate accountability concerns. Taxpayers still expect transparency regarding how contracts are awarded, who benefits from those contracts, and whether political relationships played any role in the process. That issue emerged repeatedly during the hearing. Kennedy raised concerns about the companies involved in producing the advertisements and questioned whether individuals connected to Noem's political orbit may have benefited from the contracts. Noem strongly rejected those suggestions. She maintained that career officials followed established procedures and that political appointees were not responsible for contractor selection. Importantly, the hearing did not establish wrongdoing. But congressional oversight hearings, often not about proving misconduct in real time. Their purpose is to place decisions under public examination and require officials to explain those decisions before elected representatives and the American people. In that sense, this hearing achieved exactly what oversight is intended to accomplish. It forced a public conversation about priorities. Should government agencies spend significant resources on communications campaigns? If so, how should success be measured? And how much scrutiny should accompany expenditures of this size? Those questions become even more relevant as Washington continues debating federal spending and long-term debt obligations. The hearing also highlights a larger reality about modern politics. Increasingly, political battles are fought not only through legislation and regulation but through messaging itself. Government communications have become a central tool of policy implementation. Supporters see that as necessary in an age of social media, misinformation concerns, and rapid information cycles. Critics worry it creates opportunities for government resources to become intertwined with political image building. That tension is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. And regardless of where viewers fall politically, the broader principle remains important. Government agencies possess significant resources, significant authority, and significant influence. With that influence comes an expectation of transparency and accountability, particularly when large sums of taxpayer money are involved. That is why exchanges like this matter. Not because they instantly change policy. Not because they produce dramatic legislative outcomes. But because they create a public record of how officials justify their decisions when confronted with tough questions. And in a constitutional system built on oversight, that process remains one of the most important checks on executive power. One final point deserves attention.